Thank you for tuning in to TalkWad.com, the world's fastest growing internet radio network. Please check out all the other great shows on www.talkwad.com.
Insight Talk Radio Show was born from the need to spread the word to all who want to live the amazing life the Creator has intended for us. Reverend Janet Reynolds has 30 years of spiritual insight and experience. She has studied and taught in and outside of this country and has developed a respect for all religions, beliefs, and spiritual practices that are of God's true light. The lessons she learned are now shared every week on Insight Talk Radio. Tune in every Tuesday from 1:30 to 2:30 for spiritual guidance, tips, and techniques to aid you in your life's journey. The show also features interesting guest phone readings, healings, and meditations.
Good afternoon, everyone, and how are you? Welcome to our show, Insight. I am Janet Reynolds, your host for today. I am a spirit medium and an intuitive counselor with the help of Blue Feather, my guide. Our topic today is Fairies and Mother Earth, and our special guest is John Springer.
Well, thank you.
Good morning, John.
Thank you very much.
I think I should say good afternoon, John.
Yeah, it's actually afternoon. It's past 12 o'clock.
Oh, I'm so glad that you are here. John is a visionary director and is known as a light worker networker, connecting people, groups, and communities, heart to heart. And what I think is really important here today is I love to hear John talk about fairies. And everybody knows that I always go to Wikipedia, and I did do that. I'm not going to give you the meaning just yet. I'm going to let John tell you a little bit about himself. But I did look up fairies, and I did look up Mother Earth. So now, John, please tell us something about yourself.
Well, you know, it's I don't know. It'd probably take up the entire show if I tell you exactly about who I am and what to do. But I'm actually from Indianapolis, Indiana, is I'd say where my roots are. And I've always had a connection to nature. And I remember I lived on a farm, it was a 40-acre farm, and I remember my mother used to tell me I would sit on the cows when I was 3 years old. And she never figured out how I got up on the cows, but I would call it communing with the cows. And I even recall calling a red-tailed hawk out of the sky, and he would land a few feet from me, and I would literally jump into his body and fly through his eyes.
Oh.
And I would see the countryside that way. And I thought everybody could do this until I started school, and then I realized I'm not from here. And but I've always had that connection. I mean, my mother was so insistent. I got two older brothers. They're like 15 and 20 years older than I. And she was the one that introduced me to gardens and to plants and to flowers and to the outdoors and appreciation for nature. And I recall at the farm we had this huge silver maple tree that loomed 2.5 times the height of our house.
Wow.
And the house was a 2.5-story house. It caught many of airplanes, and my father had an airplane. We flew everywhere. In fact, we had an airplane before we had indoor plumbing on the farm. So it was quite an interesting lifestyle in which I grew up. And I noticed something when I was in the garden. This is just a footnote. I kept finding marbles everywhere. And I didn't know what the marbles were about. I don't know if anybody really knows. And I looked it up, and it said marbles attract fairies in your garden.
Oh.
So apparently there was already a fairy connection in my family, and before I really embraced that realm. But when I was in Boy Scouts, I earned a National Conservation Award for Distinguished Service to Conservation.
Mm-hmm.
It took me 5 years to earn this, and I was the first one in my area in 30 years to receive it. And I've counseled many since that time to receive it. But again, it was that learning of respect and honoring of the earth. And so when I went to college, I majored in forestry and flunked out of forestry. It was too much math.
Oh.
I'm a tree hugger. I don't care how many cubic feet it grows, per acre or anything else.
I hear you.
And so when I came back into school, I went into landscape architecture. And I was in the second graduating class of landscape architecture, and it was painting with plants. And And so that's what I've been doing ever since I came to Florida in 71, is being a residential landscape designer.
Oh, okay.
And working at projects such as Busch Gardens, and then I got a job at Disney World and worked there for a while, and Tampa International Airport and Orlando
What did
International.
you design the trees
Yeah.
and the?
I don't
and-
touch shovels. I just design. I literally give you a plan of action, and I know what grows where and how they grow, and who blooms when, and what you can eat, and what you can't eat,
Oh.
and I teach people how to set up a personal relationship with their properties and their plants and their landscapes.
Oh, I find that interesting, John. I didn't know that. I know what I read and everything, but to be able to, in other words, you design different plants and
Yes.
flowers and
Yeah.
for Busch Gardens and for Walt
Yeah,
Disney.
one of my first projects was working with a gentleman named Jack Holmes. He had he was celebrating his 50th year as a landscape architect when I was working with him in Tampa. And he was the principal landscape architect for Busch Gardens, which, by the way, before they broke ground, that property had one tree on the property.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
It was just amazing.
Oh, I think so. And where they have some really beautiful trees is in the villages.
Right.
The oak trees with the moss in the villages, Buena Vista Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is just so beautiful. I love it when I go up there.
Well, and people don't realize, but if you get too much moss on a tree, it will kill the tree.
Well, you know what? I sort of know that. I really do. But there really is quite a bit on those trees there. But I love you talking to me about the fairies and all also, but what were you going to say?
Well, I'm just saying, because of that connection with plants and nature and all this, I sort of, and also, by the way, I have a master's in environmental education, and I earned it by doing my project work at Nature's Classroom in Tampa. My thesis was learning can be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I think it was in 1999, I started doing my fairy programs because people kept saying, John, do you realize you're connected to the fairy realm? Because I did an angel conference up in Gainesville in 95.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of phenomena took place up there during that. And the videographer that we hired is very fairy connected. And so she actually attended one of our ELF schools, which is, ELF is the acronym for Enchanted Living Forest.
Mm-hmm.
And she kept saying, John, you're so very connected. You need to start doing programs.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing fairy realm play shops and all types of walks. And I call my walks enchanted walkabouts.
Mm-hmm.
And it truly is a magical, scientific, and educational experience.
Well, John was showing me some of his pictures, and I actually did see some fairies, and I actually did see what looks like a dwarf or a little guy,
Yep.
and from Ireland. Before we started the show. So what I'd like to do is tell everybody what Wikipedia has to say about fairies. But if anyone would like to call in and ask us a question or to feed us some information, some tips, some insight, that would be great. And the phone number to call is 727-597-4022. John would, and even myself, would answer any question that you were to ask, okay? So now, real quick, Wikipedia says a fairy equals wee folk, good folk, people of peace, fair folk, and is a type, and they are a type of mythical beings on legendary creatures, which John is going to talk to us about that part of it, a form of spirit, which I think was really unique for him to say that, a form of spirit, often described as metaphysical, supernatural. They resemble various beings of mythologies. Sorry about that.
Mythological?
No, got GIES on
okay.
it. Mythologies. should be mythological, be easier,
Yep.
can be magical creatures, including goblins or gnomes. So on the mythical part and on a fairy, John, please tell us about that.
Well, if you think about it, they claim that Ireland and Scotland really are the center point of a lot of the fairy lore that's out there, which is really a misnomer because Iceland has got the highest percentage of people in its nation that believe in fairies.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, there was a Sundance movie recently about somebody went there to interview the residents and all, and they talked to this constable, and this constable says, "Yes, and this is where the elves are. This is where the fairies are." He says, "I used to be able to see them when I was growing up until my testicles dropped."
Oh.
And it's very true because once the hormones kick in for men and women, they lose that magical connection to all of nature.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And so unless you can find a way to sort of like keep things magical in your life all the time, that's why my moniker is be in joy. Just observe yourself. And so it's so important to realize that the fairies in the fairy realm is actually members of the angelic kingdom. And most people believe in angels, but they don't necessarily believe in fairies. And my thing is, angels are boring, fairies are fun, and then we go from there.
Angels would like that if you.
No, they get slapped in the side of the head a few times because of that.
You know what, John? I wouldn't doubt if they didn't smack you upside your head.
Yeah, they don't.
I love it, but yes, a lot of people don't believe in fairies. And I honestly did see fairies in the pictures that John showed me, and I just think it's really neat that does exist.
They usually will appear to those that are young at heart. And I'm actually working with now. I'm working with 3 different Girl Scout councils in their programming, and in fact, this past Saturday, I entertained 140 Girl Scouts, and I did 6 half-hour walks with them. And all the councils have indicated that I've changed their girls and made them all happy campers. And the aspect of happy campers is that they're now talking to everything. They're talking to flowers, they're talking to birds, they're talking to the wind, they're talking to the rain, talking to the dragonflies, they're talking to flowers and trees, and they're waving at leaves and they're hugging trees. They said, "We've never seen the girls so happy."
Well, now, I know to hug a tree. I really do. I know that. And I know to talk to a plant. I do, because it makes the plant happy when you talk to them, and they do flourish better.
Yes, they do.
When you give them lots of love. And I really think that is a good thing.
And that's a key thing. It's once you connect to the soul heart, and you can talk to anything. And a friend of mine's 3-year-old daughter a few years ago had told her mom, she said, "Mom, people are not hearing the new language of the earth." And she said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "The trees are talking, the flowers are talking, the wind's talking, the rain's talking, the birds are talking. Everything is talking. No one is listening."
Mother Earth is talking also. And that was one thing that when I channeled Blue Feather Sunday night, he talked about Mother Earth and how important it is for us to respect her.
Right. I don't know if you're aware, but this past Saturday was an international day of honoring and gratitude to the earth, to Mother Earth.
I did hear about that.
Yes.
I did.
And that was something that I emphasized to the Girl Scouts. I said, "You are the stewards of this planet. You're the future ones that's going to take care of this planet. We cannot go to any other planet. Eons ago, we were at Venus. We messed that up. We went to Mars. We screwed that up. Now we're at Earth. This is the third chance and only chance that we have for the solar system."
Oh, wow. Well, now, don't you think, though, that people are becoming a little bit more aware?
Yes, as if they can just stop they're using their iPads and their computers and their cell phones. I see too many times people are walking around oblivious, and people say, "Well, I walk in nature all the time," but they don't necessarily see nature. They don't necessarily hear nature. They don't necessarily connect to the might say the the spirits and the energies that are there. They don't and that's was something that was my emphasis with my master's program, was reawakening the senses, your connection to nature through the senses.
So what you're saying is, if were you to take a walk, to leave the cell phone behind.
That's right.
Yeah, see, a lot of people can't do that.
I know, they're so attached to it now.
Yeah, just like the gentleman on the...
Like on the elevator.
Yes, and see, I think that's rude, because he's talking and he's letting us know all of what he's doing, and I don't think it's any of our business.
Right.
So, but anyway, please, I do sometimes, or can be, a little opinionated.
Well, it's a normal thing too, and just keep that in mind. I found that once you, in fact, I did an exercise I want to share with you. I was going across the Howard Franklin Bridge, which many of you know here in the Bay Area, between Tampa and St. Petersburg. And my lady friend says, if you send love to the dolphins, they'll come jump for you. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. So I put my hand on my high heart and started doing a verse in my head. It said, "Dolphin, dolphin of the sea, even though I do not see, come and jump for me.
Oh.
Dolphin, dolphin of the sea, even though I do not see, come and jump for thee.
Oh.
Dolphin, dolphin of the sea, even though I do not see, come and jump for we." And then I said, well, maybe I should say that out loud. And of course, I had to keep the other hand on my steering wheel. And I went, oh, by the way, I'm driving a box that's called the Dolphin. I'm on the big bridge headed towards the sun. I figure I'd give him a GPS location where I was at. And sure enough, at the end of the bridge, my lady friend's going, oh, my God. And I look to my right, and there's a dolphin looking me in the eye 20 feet up.
Oh, how amazing.
And as he's turning around and going back down again, and I said, so what are you surprised at? You're the one that said I could do this. And she showed me what she meant. I said, well, that's rolling. You said jump. So we did it. I did it again a few hours later, going back over towards Tampa on the Howard Franklin. Gave him a GPS, the cosmic GPS directions. 3 dolphins came straight out of the water.
Oh, my God.
And we've used this exercise numerous times on the Atlantic and Gulf side. On the Atlantic side, we have whales jump out of the water for us.
Oh, I would love to see that. I hear what you're telling me, and I really hope all of y'all are listening to what he's saying, as in John, about the dolphins and the whales, because I would love that. I would do that. I would cross the bridge and ask them to come in.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
People are just totally amazed. And again, that's that connection, the fairy realm, and connecting into the inhabitants of Mother Earth. We were set upon this planet to take care of this planet, to take care and respect and honor everything. And we haven't. We've been using and abusing, and oh my gosh, it's just been really a sight. And when I was on the farm, I used to clean up the ditches and have beer cans and bottles, and then people would throw bottles and beer cans at me.
Yeah, and trash.
On their bumper it would say, "America, love it or leave it." I went, something's wrong with this picture.
Yeah, and you're right. They should leave it if they can't respect it.
That's right.
I did have one question that I wanted to ask you, and it has nothing to do with this.
Oh.
You said an airplane on your farm. Your dad had an airplane?
Yes, he made aircraft radios for a living.
Oh, well, I think that's pretty amazing. But did he put stuff down in the yards with the airplane? You just had an airplane for travel?
No, we had part of our farm was a sod strip connected to the airport.
Oh.
And our dad's shop was across the street and from the farmhouse. And so we would get in the plane after, in fact, I tell people I was flying before I was born.
Yeah.
Because my dad started flying in 1927.
Oh, my gosh.
And so we would, after church, we'd go to the shop, and our hangar was there, and we'd pull the plane out, and we would fly to, say Atlanta or St. Louis or Chicago or Columbus or, some place that's 2 or 3 hours away sometimes for Sunday dinner, and then fly home again.
I think that's amazing. I did that one time in my life. I was young, and we flew to Atlantic City, and we had breakfast. Yep. And then we flew back home again. That was I did get sick because it was a little one, but I wouldn't bring nothing up. I just got nauseated.
Oh, okay. That's good.
And when we landed, they flew the door open for me. So once the air hit me, I was all right. But I did do that, and I think that's amazing that you were able to do that
Yeah.
as a child.
And here's the plus. Before getting out of high school, I actually visited all the states in the Union except Alaska, Nevada, and Hawaii. Um, five provinces in Canada, 3 states in Mexico, and the Bahamas
Oh, wow.
before getting out of high school.
I just think that right there is amazing. I really do. Now, when you did the walk with the Girl Scouts, tell them please about the shoestrings and
Oh, yeah.
what the fairies do when you are walking.
Well, let me tell you what the 3 key things I tell people before we walk. If a leaf waves at you, wave back. Chances are the leaf will stop waving. It can be just a single leaf waving, and you'll be amazed how many times this will happen. People just ignore it. The second thing is if you see a spinning leaf, you can talk to it. You can get it to speed up, slow down, change directions, or stop. And usually it will. It will do everything you ask it to do, whether it's mentally or out loud. And the third thing is if the pixies are here and they really like you, they'll put rocks, leaves, or dirt in your shoes or untie your shoelaces. And 2 years ago up at the Jacksonville in the Orange Springs camp up there, I had 140 girls at that one. And one girl says, well, I'll show those pixies. And she double ties her shoelaces. And as we're standing there talking, we watched her shoelaces come undone. And she's freaking out. And so I said, just because you cannot see them does not mean they do not exist. And this is true. Like people, I view everybody from Missouri. You know why?
Mm-hmm.
Missouri is a show me state.
Yes. Yeah, show me.
And so that's, and people are astonished. And once they start getting connected to things, they'll see everything differently.
Yeah. Well, and that's true. And I think that has a lot to do with because the fairies and their gnomes and the little guys, especially the ones from Ireland and everything, it is like show me because, in my own little way, I believe, but I don't believe.
Right. Most adults are that way.
So you showing me the pictures helped. And then what I really would like to do is when John's going to be doing some walks, I'm going to do one of those walks so I can
absolutely.
see.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to do. I want to experience and see for myself what they'll do for me.
Well, and people have noted that when I walked a property with a friend of mine, we were going to do a fairy realm play shop, which is a full-day program. At the end of our walk, he says, I'll forever see my land through a new set of eyes.
Mm. Oh, that's beautiful.
And I went, can I borrow that? So that's now been my statement. Excuse me. Choke.
Mm.
So it's, people are just astonished. I mean, Mike Webmaster has been a photographer all of his life, and he lives from the Orlando area, and he used to have gnomes that would, not gnomes, actually trolls come up in his backyard.
Oh.
And he lived near a place called Dixon Azalea Gardens, which has 9 bridges you walk over and 1 bridge you walk under, and one bridge is a historical bridge,
Mm-hmm.
one of 3 in Florida. And the trolls are all over the place there, and we've actually seen them manifest right before our eyes. And you have to keep in mind that the members of the fairy realm are also interdimensional beings,
Mm-hmm.
and they will show themselves to those that believe.
Right.
And sure enough, I was sitting with a dear friend of mine who's an astrologer, and we watched this gnome just show up.
Mm-hmm.
We have pictures of him, by the way.
Oh, good.
And so anyway, Orville, who's my webmaster, said, after he walked with me last year, he said everything is different to him now.
Mm-hmm.
Now he goes to different parks, calls me up and said, you need to see the fairy doors and the fairy castle and the faces in the trees and the gnome homes and Merlin's eyes. And he's just really picked up on all the terminologies and all the things that we point out during our walks.
And the trees, looking at the trees is really unique. And that I know is real because I've done that. And the faces that are carved, not carved by man, but carved.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you can actually see the faces, the eyes, and I really believe that's special too.
Well, we had a phase at Mead Gardens where we do a lot of our walks in the Orlando area, and he was not smiling at all when we first started doing our walks. So every time we go there, we talk to him. And now he's smiling.
Oh, oh, that's good to know.
Oh yeah, he's smiling now. He's so thrilled.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that because he knows. So, and that's good. That's good. And the pictures that you showed me with the trees were pretty neat too. So,
Now I want to share something with you that sometimes we realize we're not connected. And I did this exercise with a lady friend of mine up in Georgia. It was on my birthday. It's had botanical gardens, and we were laying in an area called the Climax Mature Forest, and it was way in the back. We were on the deck. I told her, I said, well, I can talk to the wind. And she goes, oh, yeah, sure you can. So I showed her, and sure enough, the wind came across us as we're laying there. And then I asked her, I said, now I want you to focus in on a leaf way up in the trees. And this was in October. My birthday's in October. And show me where this leaf is. And I want you to ask that leaf to come to you. And sure enough, we watched this leaf break free, and it floated through the woods and around trees and up drafts and down drafts, and it came and landed on her heart, and her whole body shook.
mm.
And she realized she too had a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a mental health counselor, and she shifted what she did to be more of a spiritual mental health counselor after that, because she realized she had that connection.
Mm.
Everybody does. They've just lost their way
Mm-hmm.
in finding that connection. So the fairy realm really helps us do that, and it helps because the fairies came out in 2000 and put out a message that was worldwide and said, and I was at that time, I was the director of the Enchanted Children's Garden in Lake County. And it was that we need sanctuary. We need you to wake up humans to their role as stewards of this planet,
Mm-hmm.
to honor and respect everything.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I've talked to people in countries all around the world, and they all received the message.
Mm-hmm.
And the year 2000 was most prominent for this.
Mm-hmm.
There was an increase in movies. There was an increase in commercials with fairies. I mean, even Slim Jims had a fairy. Eckerd Drugs had commercials. They had fairies, dragons, and orbs in it.
Oh my goodness.
There was GM had a fairy. You know, it was like mainstream folks were using fairies in their advertising on TV.
Oh. Now see, I didn't realize that. I really did not in 2000.
Oh yeah, everything. And many of the festivals started up in 2000, and the fairy magazine started up in 2000, which is amazing. All of a sudden there's this surge of awareness that took place
Mm-hmm.
because so many people heard the message.
I think that's amazing. I really do. And I hope that everybody that's listening to us today understands that they too can call a leaf or see a fairy. It's just a matter of believing that you can do that also,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
It's mind power. And I feel that that is important. If there is anyone out there that would like to give us a call and ask us a question, once more, the phone number is 727-597-4022. Now, John, I think that that's amazing about the girls' shoestrings, the little girls.
Oh, yeah.
And that they do that, and they do it in fun.
Well, and how that came about was that I don't know if you know a lady named Dickie Jo Mullen. She's a noted astrologer in our area.
Mm-hmm.
I sent her out to an area that we're going to do a full day program at, and I get an email back from her and says, "You need to talk to those nasty little pixies. Those malevolent little characters got me lost in the woods for 2.5 hours, and I ended up a half mile down the road."
Oh my goodness.
And I went, oh, great, I got to go out and talk to pixies. And I knew where they were at. So I go out there and said, listen, I got 27 people coming tomorrow. I don't want anyone lost in the woods. I don't care if you put rocks or leaves in their shoes or untie their shoelaces. I don't want anybody lost in the woods. Well, sure enough, everybody's shoes got compromised. And I pulled out a leaf that was probably about 3 inches long and about an inch wide. My foot was never out of my shoe all day, and yet I
Oh.
found a leaf in my shoe.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at that leaf, and all I could hear was laughter. And then I heard, "Well, you gave us permission."
Oh, isn't that something?
So from that point on, I've always given them permission.
Well, your pixies look different, and your fairies
Oh,
look
yeah.
different, and your gnomes look different.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And our goblins look different, and they all have their own
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
characteristics. That's a
Well,
good word.
and here's something that's taking place more and more now. We're noticing a lot of people in human form, they have the qualities of members of the realm. I mean, I had an elf school 3 years ago, and I had a pixie show up. She's a minister of a church in Orlando. We had a
Oh.
fairy show up. She's a director of an alternative school. When I first met her, I went, "You're a fairy." And she starts crying. She goes, "You're the first person to recognize me."
Oh.
I had 2 elves, a gnome, and a troll, and everybody knew when the troll arrived. And he's an elemental photographer from Miami
How'd they know he was a troll?
because he has the look of one.
oh, isn't
Everybody
that
has
something?
that energy. In fact, the person I'm working with up in our area, when I first met her, I said, "You're a fairy with elfin energy." And she goes,
Mm.
"You're the first person to recognize me of that." And you're
Oh.
absolutely correct.
Oh.
And I'm finding more and more people that are literally were members of the fairy realm. In fact, my massage therapist, one of them, when I talked, she's very tall and lanky, got pointed ears and almond eyes, and I went, you were a wood nymph." And she goes, "Oh my God, I always felt like I was a maple tree in my past life."
Oh my gosh. Oh wow.
And I checked her tree and what tree she was. She was a maple tree.
Oh, isn't that something?
So
Isn't I have to really think about that. I really do about what you're saying because how did they know they were the fairy or how did they know that?
I think it's something within the DNA and something within the energy, and they always had that feeling. But it's rare to run across someone that actually can confirm it to them.
Yes.
A lot of people are just really stuck in a situation. They need validation, they need confirmation, need permission. I found when I do a lot of my programs, it's basically giving them permission to remember.
Oh, I have to think about that. I think I really feel that a good meditation and then to go back and to see what we were, which I've done many, I really have in my lifetime. And I do know that I was a country woman, like not a cowgirl, but lived in the country during the Cowboys' time.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, yes. And the way that I saw it was there was a big table with many chairs, and my sleeves were rolled up, and I had many children. So perhaps with a meditation or a regression, you think that we could do that to find out if we were fairies or gnomes?
Yeah.
Or...
Well, we're finding that so many that are from the fairy realm that come back in human form to help people awaken to the role as stewards of the planet. And a lot of them are stuck. A lot of them don't know who they are. In fact, we started a new group called the Fourth Friday for Fairies group. It's for displaced members of the realm having a hard time being human. And sure enough, we had a troll show up.
Oh, wow.
And he always felt like he was that way, but he
Mhm.
never had anyone confirm him in that realm.
I just think that's amazing. The fact that you have a class to help them find out who they are in the line of a fairy and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Or a troll, or I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's been fun. And we're looking at another, the third Thursday is for trolls. Because there's a lot of trolls out there, and it's just, they take on the interesting characteristics. They like dark places, like hiding under things, and they have a tendency to hide their faces, with their hair and everything else, and they're kind of lanky and sort of awkward in their way of walking, and it's amazing how many trolls we run across.
John, you need to tell everybody how to get a hold of you in case there are some listeners who would be interested, and let them know what area that you're in so that if this was something that they would like to do, that they could get a hold of you.
Well, actually, there's two different really great ways. One is my website, and the other one is my Facebook page.
Oh, I looked at your Facebook page last night. I was going to friend you, and I didn't know whether if we were a friend or
I
not.
know.
I know. I didn't know either, so I didn't want to double do it.
Well, anyway, my Facebook page is Enchanted Walkabouts. My website is enchantedwalkabouts.com. And I'm thinking about having my website totally revamped. There's a web place near it's Green Man something other, and I figured, well, that'd be most appropriate for me to get taking care of my website. Oh, by the way, I do have a photograph in my album, which I didn't share with you, was of the Green Man.
Oh, I'd like to see that. Who is the Green Man?
Well, actually, the Green Man is like Father Nature in a way.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, but we actually captured him on film in the crotch of a tree. And the most common depictions of the Green Man is he's sticking his tongue out at you.
Oh.
And sure enough, in this photograph, he's sticking his tongue out at us.
Oh.
And so I had my friend go back to the same tree 6 weeks later and take another photo, and sure enough, he's gone.
Oh.
Totally
Because you
gone.
weren't there.
Well, no, it's that he was upset we captured him to begin with, and he figured he'd leave.
And that's why he stuck his tongue out. Oh, my gosh. Now, John, is there stories behind your hats?
Actually, I got 4 top hats, and the first one actually came about. It had angels and cherubs and stars and moons on them. In fact, it's on the website as well, and that was gifted to me when I was the director of an angel conference up in Gainesville. It was a 3-day conference, and we were sponsored by the Angel Gardens in Gainesville and the Unity Church of Gainesville.
Mm-hmm.
And my session was we had 7 sessions. Each session was the color of the rainbow and was oversaw by an archangel. And mine was the red session, which was, we started at the base chakra and walked up. And my session was around this oak tree that was bigger around than this room.
Wow.
And I had people hold hands, and I walked around the tree doing the talk, and I had the wind come down and circle every person 3 times all the way around the tree.
Oh, my gosh.
And so the owner of Angel Gardens offered me a top hat, since I was the master of ceremonies and the creator of this program. And the hat I really wanted was the cat in the hat. But I kept knocking it off every time I walked through the door.
Oh.
Because it was too tall.
Mm-hmm.
So I got another top hat, and it was with the angels, and it had red on the angels, which was perfect for my session.
Mm-hmm.
So I started wearing it in 1995, and for most of my programs, I used the top hat.
Yeah.
And I wore it out after 11 years.
Oh, my goodness.
So I asked for another hat, and another hat was gifted to me from Cirque du Soleil.
Oh.
And it was a blue top hat. That's why the Girl Scouts call me Papa Smurf.
Oh, because of the hat.
Because it's a blue top hat.
Well, the fact that Cirque du Soleil gave you one, I think.
Well, it was through friends and all that, but it was a Cirque du Soleil hat. And then this hat came about because the blue hat was velvet and it would bake my brains. So I had to get something lighter for the summertime. That's why. And the rabbit doesn't like being in this hat. It likes being in the blue one because there's more room for him.
Oh.
Well, I usually have a rabbit in the hat. It's a long-eared stuffed bunny. It looks like the Trix rabbit. And how that came about, there's a story in reference to that. I had to go to an art festival in Lake Mary, and something told me put a rabbit in the hat. It was the angel hat and all. So I go up there, and all I was doing is dropping papers off to one of the vendors. And she asked, "How will I find you?" I said, "Well, I'll have a top hat on." I get to the gate. It's $5 to get in. And the ticket taker says, "If you got a rabbit in that hat, you get in free." No problem. I took the hat off, pulled the rabbit up, put the rabbit down, put the hat on. He goes, "I wouldn't have believed it. I hadn't seen it." And just going in.
Oh, isn't that amazing? I love your hats. I mean, this one's okay, but I like the other ones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the
A
bigger
lot more
ones.
fun.
When you're walking around and you have that hat on, I think they're really different. They're
Well,
special.
and I didn't realize, but my parents had let me know, or actually my family let me know that there was a top hat, and I remember this. It was a silk top hat that I wore all the time, off and on through junior high and high school, not realizing that was going to be part of my signature in my walks.
In your life.
Yeah,
Isn't that something? That and your rabbit. I like your rabbit. I think he's
rabbit.
pretty cute. I really do. So that's a lot of information, good information today. It really, really is. And once more, because we're getting ready to slow down here. If anybody has a question, the phone number is 727 597 4022. I'm going to be doing announcements in a few minutes, and then John has some announcements also. But I would like for him to please, once more, tell everybody your Facebook and your webpage. Is that what
Oh,
it
yeah.
was?
The website's www.enchantedwalkabouts with an S, enchantedwalkabouts.com. And my Facebook page is also facebook.com /enchantedwalkabouts with an S.
There you go.
And from there, you can find my other Facebook pages.
Okay. And if anybody would like to find out more information about myself or about me, I guess is how I could say that, you can go to www.bluefeather.net. And then, of course, you know that this is spiritpioneers.com and Insight with Blue Feather, which is, I love my logo. I think it's really neat. But what I'd like to tell everybody is that I will be at Mystical Sense 3 Thursdays in the month of February from 12 to 6. And Pearl at Mystical Sense is going to come back on our show the last week in February, which is the 29th. And next week, I have Trenda Lathrow coming on, and we're going to talk about spirituality there and body, mind, and the many changes that she's gone through. And she's also an author and has written 4 books, which are very interesting. And I happen to be in 2 of the 4. And I think that that's good. And Treasure Island, I will be out at Treasure Island Benjamin Studio. I think one Saturday, the month of February. And you can, when you go out on my webpage, bluefeather.net, all you need to do is click on my calendar, and it'll tell you right where I am. And I'm at the Osmar Flea Market on Sundays, and I'm at the flea market in Treasure Island on Fridays. So I do have a busy schedule, which I love, and I really do enjoy being. I was outside Friday.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the flea market is outside in Treasure Island, and then in Osmar, it's inside. But that sun just felt so good to be outside. The weather was just as beautiful as it is today. So now, John, I know you got some good announcements, so please, let's hear them.
Well, actually, we have another fairy festival coming up March 30th in Cassadaga, Florida, which is right next to Lake Helen in the DeLand, Deltona area. It's I think it's exit 114 off of the I-4, and it's at a place called Bridget's Well, and it's from 10 to 7. It's a free event, and we have about 25 maybe vendors, and also too we have a lot of kids activities, and that's March 30th, and then on April 27th. There is a spring fairy fest taking place down at Clymer Park in Gulfport, which they have asked me to do some walkabouts there, which I'm really excited about doing possibilities.
Yeah, you know, Cassadaga and Gulfport are very old.
Yes, yes.
So.
And then I have to backtrack a bit because in April 21st, I am doing a walkabout at Eureka Springs, which is in Tampa. It's near Vandenberg Airport. It's just on the other side of I-75 and I-4 area. And Eureka Springs is quite a unique place. We did a walk there this past year, and it was a lot of magic that came about.
And that's to do with mystical sense, is that
Yes,
correct?
the true mystical sense. That's absolutely correct.
Yes, in Donasassa.
And then I'm doing another walkabout through Enchanted Earth. That's going to take place on the 18th of May. And it looks like we're going to do the Dunedin Cemetery as our walking place.
I really think that's amazing. I really, because even to go to grave sites and to see spirits and or fairies, I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do a historic enchanted walk at our Apopka Cemetery. And there's just a lot of excitement. And the mayor of Apopka, who's, by the way, has been mayor of our town for 60 years, has taken me around and shown me, where the old school and the railroad and the church and all his friends are planted. Mm. And the Civil War and the different cemeteries. And I add all that in. There's also Woodsmen of the World tombstones there that are made to look like trees. They're made out of concrete or carved into granite. And they're rare to find them in Florida, but this particular cemetery has 3 of them. And I'm always looking out for those because they're just so unique.
Mm. Cedar Key has a really unique cemetery.
Yes.
But, yeah, you know where that's at?
Yes, I do.
Going toward Tallahassee.
Right.
Yeah, I've walked that one, and it's really, they got some old tombstones there. Yep. So that one's.
And there's some Indian mounds near there too, right on the mainland.
Oh, okay. Now, see, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
An Indian mound.
Yeah.
I know there's one in
Crystal River.
Yeah, and then there's Indian Mound in Safety Harbor.
Yeah, that's Fleepy Park. We did ceremony on that on the January 11th of 1992.
Oh, and did anything transpire?
Oh my God! And I had a gathering drum. I had a 35-inch gathering drum we used for drumming on top of that. And it was basically the who's who of metaphysics that showed up there.
Oh my goodness! Because I think I'm sure that's pretty powerful. Felipe Park.
Yep.
And do you have more to announce?
That was the basic ones. I'm always got a calendar's something going on. You can see my January ones.
His calendar is more packed than my calendar. Let me say that.
But I'm going to be, like I said, I was going to be working with actually the Sarasota the Girl Scout Council in October. I'm doing a fairy camporee with them.
I bet the Girl Scouts love you.
Yeah, there's a special patch that's been made through a friend of mine, Deborah. A fairy hunt in Los Angeles, California. She was one of our sponsors at our Fairy and Earth Festival that I held on November 11th at Sacred Lands. And she created a patch called the Magical Fairy Adventure Patch. And fairy is spelled Fairy or Faerie.
Oh.
And this is a patch for the Girl Scouts, and they have special requirements and everything else. And I talked to the patch company, Patchworks out of Virginia, and they said, in their entire history, this is the most popular patch they've ever created.
How about that? Now, that's good to know.
That means the interest is waking up to that. And the event I did this past weekend, which was the Enchanted Wonderland with 140 Girl Scouts, they made up special patches for their encampment and their fairy patches for the Girl Scouts. And they gave me last year's and this year's patch.
I think that's great that they're doing that. I really do, because with the energy today and with everything that's transpiring for everyone, if they could keep lighthearted and try to really see themselves to the fairies, or the fairies see themselves to us, I think that would really be good. And I love the fact that the Girl Scouts are doing that.
Yeah, I'm just so thrilled that they are. And I've worked with Boy Scouts and boys and girls clubs, and I just recently I've been elected to a new position. I'm now the elected tree advocate to the executive board for the Florida Urban Forestry Council. Mm. And they approached me a couple years ago about putting my name up for voting before I was a member. And I showed up to the first meeting wearing my top hat, my blue top hat, with my rabbit, with a fairy shirt on and sparkles on my hands, face, and legs.
Well, we were going to talk about your sparkles.
And when I introduced myself, one forester said, "Oh, I think you're here to teach us about the spiritual side of trees." And I said, "I accept that assignment."
Mm-hmm.
And another one says, "I think you're here to teach us about how to have more fun." And that I said, "I accept that assignment as well." And since that time, everybody's worn my top hat. So that's
Well, see, that's a plus too. Just to have more fun today
right.
would be it's a good thing. I mean, not just for the Girl Scouts or for children, but for us adults who every day have a lot that goes on around us to where we need to, I would say, go into another world, a world of fun, and see that.
And most people think that my enchanted walkabouts are designed for children. Actually, they're designed for adults. It's the children that I learn a lot from.
Mm-hmm.
I remember taking out 140 homeschoolers, 85 of them were kids, average age was 7.
Wow.
And they were stepping into these triangles of trees, 3 trees from separate trunks, and they formed a perfect triangle, and they would go, wee, wee. And I went, "Excuse me, what are those?" "Oh, we call those elevators. Sometimes we feel like we're going up, and sometimes we feel like we're going down."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "I have to try that." And sure enough, stood in it, closed my eyes, and it felt like I was shooting straight up.
Oh, my goodness.
And so now we point out elevators. And at Eureka Springs, there's an elevator, and I put the ranger in it, and she just flipped out because she felt like she was going up.
Yeah.
And I got a scientist from NASA to step into an elevator at Mead Gardens in Winter Park. And sure enough, he felt like he was going up. He was so shocked. And I'm so thrilled when I can get a doctor, attorney, a minister, or a scientist to feel.
Yeah, I think so, because they're always so serious. John has sparkles on today, and he didn't have them on when he pulled up, but when he went back to his car, he came back with it on his face and everything. I thought it was perspiration, but it wasn't. It sparkles, and I don't know if you all can see that or not, but I'm going to let him tell you all about that.
I call it sparkling up. And it's basically, I do it because people just are so, might say, oblivious. And I do it to see if anybody notices. And I also do it because it brings about more fairy energy and lightness. And I get my it's called Shimmer Glimmer. I get it from a company out of Cincinnati, Ohio called Pixie Dust.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how many times I've run across people that just, a little bit of pixie dust will do magic for people. And it really is true. So I really enjoy when I went to my brother's Christmas. I had 2 brothers, 15 and 20 years older than I, and so I said, I don't care what they say, what they think. I'll wear my top hat with my rabbit, and I sparkled up. And sure enough, and oh yeah, it was a birthday, and they gave me a fairy cookbook. They gave me a green reference book, and I went, "Oh my God, they've been to my website."
Oh, how about that?
And they're very accepting of what I'm doing because, again, I'm having a chance to change the way people see and feel their connection to Mother Earth.
In the way they think.
In the way they think.
Yes, and that's important. And I did look Mother Earth up real quick, like in Wikipedia. And Mother Earth in Wikipedia is a deity, or a Slavic deity. Deity is how I should say that. And then Earth Mother is a counterpart of the Sky Father. But I really do wish we could just, everybody, really pay attention to how they're treating the earth. And I think, too, to mention the food and how the food is just so much going on it.
Well, it's important to bless your food. Do prayers over your food, because think about how many people handle that food from its growing to its harvesting to its packaging to your table.
I really feel that's a good suggestion, because I do have a couple friends that do pray over their food, and I have not, but there are times when I do, and I really feel if everybody would do that, it would be good for them.
And here's something else. Have you ever been into a restaurant where everybody was angry? The waitresses, the waiters, the patrons. There was just, chances are the cook was angry.
Oh, was it you that told me that?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I don't doubt that. And my other concern, real quick, because we only have a few minutes left, are the bees.
Oh, yes, there are declining hives.
Yes.
Yes, because there's so many chemicals in our products, in our foods, in our flowers, and in the growing process, and it's really compromising the bees.
And you know what? I get chills on that. So that to me is confirmation. And there is it's going around signatures. What do I want to call that? A petition.
Oh, a petition, yeah.
Yeah, there is a petition going around trying to get people to sign it so that we can talk to the government and, to who we're supposed to about what's going on, especially with the bees.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't really believe that's happening to the bees, but it is.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, without our bees, we won't have food.
No, and
it's all part of that web of life that we sometimes forget about.
Yeah, and that is bees are a part of Mother Earth,
yep.
And they need they don't need all the chemicals on the stuff that we're eating.
Well, if you talk to your plants, they will respond to you. However, you can get overly enthusiastic and they will respond too great for you. And I just a quick example now. My friend had a narcissus, and every morning I would greet that narcissus, and I would put my hands together and go upward and say, "Good morning." Well, that narcissus, which normally grows only 12 inches tall, grew to be 3 feet tall and then bloomed above it. Because every morning I was moving that energy upward on it.
Oh.
And it's just sort of like it was too weak to hold itself. Because sometimes we get overly enthusiastic about helping and connecting to our plants. So we have to keep that in mind. There's a balance in things.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. That does make sense. I should talk to I have plants going in pots all the way around the house. I should talk to them more often, but sometimes I just don't have time.
Well, here's something else. And a lot of people, if you got camellias or azaleas on your property, and even some of the orchids and all, and plants and roses that you buy at 7-Eleven that have no fragrance,
mm-hmm.
If you talk to the flower and tell it how beautiful it is, how wonderful it is, how much you appreciate the flower, how much you love the flower, and ask it to release more fragrance, it will.
Okay, I hope all of y'all remember that. My poinsettias. Say that word for me.
Poinsettia.
Yes, my poinsettia. I have a big, beautiful red one, and I love the white ones. They're still alive from Christmas.
Yeah.
So I do. Now, those I do talk to because I really like that plant. I really do.
Now, do we have a couple minutes? I got something else I feel is very important to share.
Okay, go for it.
And it's in working with yourself and trees.
Mm-hmm.
If you got any stresses or pain in your body, find your tree. Find a tree that you can communicate with. Can you sit next to? Hug it. And as you're doing this, talk to the tree and tell it again how beautiful it is, how wonderful it is. Thank it for the air it provides to breathe. Thank it for the homes it provides for the animals. And then ask it to take your pain and stress away. And it will. And once you establish a relationship with that tree, anywhere you are in the world, that tree will connect to you and respond and take your stress and pain away.
Oh, I do believe that. I really do. So I hope everybody enjoyed our show today. I thank you very much, John, for being here. And I know that hopefully we will do it again because I think there's more and more information out there that John could tell us. And I'm sure you can get good tips from what we had to say today. I'm very sure about that. So thank you very much for being here. And I wish everybody a beautiful day. It's beautiful out. I can't wait to get back outside again. That sun is shining, and I love it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Insight. Join us weekly where we will give spiritual insight, tips, and techniques to aid you on your spiritual journey. May Spirit be with you.